So let me just start out with that big, really general question, and that is, why do you want this job? What is it about being mayor of San Antonio that speaks to you and to what you think you should do?
So when I graduated from high school, the lure of one day returning home to serve my community in politics and in public policy was present at that early age. So here I am, many years later, on a path to help my city and be a part of this current generation that is working together to improve San Antonio in some really big and fundamental ways, like upgrading the quality of our workforce, continuing to diversify the types and numbers of employers in our city so that our people can find gainful employment and know the joy of finding success and fulfillment in work and being able to provide for their families. Our city is now part of a global economy, and so we're in competition with cities all around the world. The need to be competitive, and today in this modern economy, that means having people who are problem solvers and creative and ability to invent and not just earn a living by the sweat of their backs, but to have it up here intellectually, and so that is a huge challenge for us. Mm-hmm.
So when you say you want to create a new talent pool, what realistically can a mayor with the city council do?
Across the board, whether we're talking about kind of traditional functions of city government or functions of city government that are outside of the typical portfolio of work, successful mayors are partners. They're collaborators. They don't do it alone. They build a team to get something done, whether it's getting a bond project passed in order to make investments in important infrastructure, or in this case, improving the quality of our workforce. That is a partnership that the mayor needs to be a part of. You know, for too long, there has been a wall separating educators from our business leaders. And today, the way our economy has evolved is that many jobs are intellectually challenging. And if we can expose our kids to learning that is rooted in the relevance of their local economy, I think they're going to learn more. And they're going to be more engaged because they understand the importance and relevance of what they're learning in the classroom. And if we can go a step further and connect their classroom learning to apprenticeships and internships where they get exposed to professionals who are living out their careers, we're going to give them role models and inspire them. You know, we're a fast-growing city, and we need to keep up in terms of providing for basic infrastructure, and infrastructure that ties us together better as one city, not divided across major highways. And so that's a really big concern. And I'm talking about water supply, but also I'm talking about livability of this city. Like, we really do need to be serious about making this town more walkable. Because if we can do that, I think we'll raise the quality of life for many San Antonians. We'll make more accessible the ability to acquire healthy habits like walking your children to school or walking to your favorite nearby neighborhood destination. But in too many parts of town, the sidewalks are too narrow. They're up against the curb. They don't go anywhere, and it's very difficult.
I've heard everybody say no tax rate increase. So if you're not going to raise the tax rate and you want to kind of keep property affordable in the city, which I suspect you do, how do you pay for all this? What do you do to pay for all of the infrastructure and
So-
necessities?
Here's how we do it. My formula for growing our revenue capacity to make these important investments is by strengthening our economy, diversifying it. When it comes to infrastructure investments, traditionally, the public gets to weigh in. And so what I am opposed to is not giving the public an opportunity to tell us whether they support a bond issue which rests on property taxes. What I am opposed to is raising the general property tax rate to support the general fund, where the money will be absorbed across 1,000 different budget items, and where there's less accountability. So San Antonio has a track record of bringing to the voters well-defined projects that have a start date and a finish date, and asking the voters, are you willing to increase, whether it's the sales tax rate or the property tax rate, to invest in these projects? And the voters have approved them. And I think the reason why they've approved them is because they know exactly what they're getting for their money.
So if you were going to build new sidewalks, or you needed
there's an upcoming 2017 bond issue, and it will be supported by an existing tax rate of 21 cents. We're able to issue new bonds because we've retired old bonds. And so we actually have the bonding capacity to raise more proceeds to the tune of somewhere close to $600 million. And we're going to be able to invest that money without raising the existing property tax rate. I give a lot of credit to Cheryl Scully for putting us on this road of public accountability in our bond issues, making sure that what we tell the voters we're going to raise the money for is actually how the money gets spent, and those dollars go into shovel-ready projects that are completed within a reasonable time before we start a new bond issue. We need to be mobilizing not just public debt, but private capital. When we make investments in infrastructure, we need to be nimble as a city government to find opportunities where big employers are willing to pay for some of the infrastructure around their property. And as mayor, I will make sure our city government is a more effective partner and is more nimble in its ability to take on these projects.
There are at least 4 of you who have served in public office prior to this election, and all of you have some experience to bring to the table. What is it about you that makes you the best candidate?
I think what sets me apart is my experience in economics and finance. Right now, the 2 major issues confronting our city have to do with both of these subjects. Investing in infrastructure is going to be all about having a mayor who manages our city's finances, keeping sure that they are rock solid, that we can afford new bond issues so that we can keep up with our growing population. I am offering the city a unified vision. I see what the future holds or could hold for San Antonio, and I want to pursue that with our civic and business leaders. It's a city where we put aside the old school politics of who you know and embrace a new type of politics that is about policy, that is open to publicly debating what are the best ideas, and not being afraid to engage with citizens. I want to open up City Hall so that we never have another day where citizens are told they can't talk to their council members during the budgeting process.
Is that the current situation?
That's what happened in the last budget cycle.
Oh,
there was a
okay.
blackout period where citizens who are part of nonprofits that receive some funding from the city government were told they couldn't talk to their elected representatives, and that's old school. I think we're all adults here.
That's the thing I wasn't aware of.
We can have a deliberative conversation about how best to spend our money. There is no budget item that should be sacred, that shouldn't be able to stand up to the strongest critics in San Antonio. In fact, opponents are often the folks who help us do better because they challenge our assumptions, they poke holes in our analysis. Our city government needs to embrace that kind of approach in governing. And that's one of the things I want to bring. The other kind of part of the new day for San Antonio is embracing technology. We are a fast-growing city. The only way we're going to be providing services through our public agencies of city government or even in the private sector is by embracing technology that allows us to reduce costs. I think the rideshare debate is a great example where our city government got it wrong. The city should not have regulated rideshare out of San Antonio. It should have figured out a framework that allowed for competition to exist and should have spent time really appreciating how rideshare, in fact, expands public safety.
How are you going to do this? What is it you're going to promote and champion that's really going to have an impact on the way people get around in this city and improve it?
Here are the projects I'd like us to get behind as a city. Number one, we need to be better supporters of public transit. We have some successes that we should learn from and extend to other parts of the city, like the bus rapid transit program that is currently active along Fredericksburg Road. That bus line operates like a train. It's moving every 10 to 15 minutes. The stations are clean and they're permanent. They're large and well lit and safe. We can have that kind of approach to help unclog our most congested highways and business corridors. Right now, we are helping build a 4-story parking garage that has its own ramp that feeds directly onto 281. It's going to be located near Stone Oak. And that will help bus rapid transit move people quickly from their parked cars onto the highway and speeding into downtown or wherever they need to go southward. But for that to truly be a success, we need to add capacity on our highway. And so I'd like us to advance a plan that adds an HOV lane for bus rapid transit or for anybody who's carpooling. If we can get more people onto a dependable, reliable, frequent, high quality bus with quality Wi-Fi on their own HOV lane, I think we're going to see a lot of people who commute to work from north to south say, hey, I want to be on that and not stuck in traffic. And if we can do that, I think we're going to help more people spend more time with their friends and family.
Do you see streetcar or a light rail type system in the near future for the city? By that I mean that we would get started on it soon.
I absolutely believe that we have to change the game of how we get around. If we're going to double in population, we can't simply just double the number of cars and trucks. And I think helping VIA regain the city's trust and demonstrate success in their current capacity will position them to bring forward a new proposal of public transit that involves rail. I believe that there should be a public vote on any rail project. Why? Because these projects involve public debt. And I believe in general, if you're going to issue debt, which ultimately ties the hands of future generations because they're going to be paying it back, then the threshold for approving something like that should be more than a simple majority on council. It should go to the voters for approval.
Why do you think we still have the police fire contract hanging out there after all these months? Why was it not solved, or why hasn't everyone thus far come around the table, found a solution, and moved on? This has been a protracted negotiation.
We have a divided council right now, and we have a divided council because we lack a strong mayor that can build a voting bloc and bring people together and unify council along the principle of financial sustainability. Public safety budget needs to grow and should grow, but it should not grow faster than our tax revenue. Right now it's growing at a pace close to 6% on average year to year. Our tax revenue grows closer to 4% on average year to year. That is an unsustainable trend. If public safety was a small share of our general fund, then this would be manageable. But it's not. It's 67% of our general fund. And so we need strong leadership in the mayor's office that can unify the council.
You don't think you have it?
Right now we don't. And my evidence of that is the current stalemate between police and the city. At one point, before the current mayor was selected by her peers, the council was unified in challenging the evergreen clause.
The 10-year contract.
The 10-year contract. The term in the current contract that keeps in place the current benefits for 10 years. They were taking steps to take that to court and had taken it to court. And then in the middle of the current mayor's administration, the council divided, and there was a proposal to step away from the challenge of that provision. Ultimately, we need a mayor that can bring a strong, unified voice to this issue, because it is the most important financial decision facing our city.
The contract?
The contract, getting this contract right. I believe a 10-year horizon isn't good for anybody. Number one, if you can't agree on a new contract, putting the old one in place for 10 years is not going to encourage all stakeholders to come to the table and form a new contract. And number two, I don't see how it's in the interest of even the police officers. Because while it may put in place the current health benefits for 10 years, the city still has control over its budget in terms of the number of police officers it adds, or the salary increases that it gives year to year. We need a more reasonable provision that allows for stability for our police officers, but incentivizes an agreement. We should not go an extended period of time without a contract.
There's been a lot of discussion about Leticia Van de Putte moving the $300,000, moving some of it back, but we all know that money is an important part of an electoral process.
Integrity matters. Integrity is not doing the right thing when people are watching. Integrity is actually doing the right thing when people aren't watching. I am of the belief that the way we run our campaigns are good indicators of how we're going to behave when we govern. And so I think San Antonians have a good sense of our different approaches. We both had state funds, but we handled those funds in very different ways. I followed the law on the get-go. Nobody had to tell me or rake me over the coals in how I used that money. Anybody who gave me more than $1,000, I wrote them a check and gave the excess back to them. And that is what San Antonio voters expect of their mayor.
What's the difference between you and her? Both of you have served your community in the legislature. You've been active in your neighborhoods. What's the difference?
I think there are a number of differences. Here are a few. Number one, this is my highest priority. I didn't tell everybody that I wanted to be their lieutenant governor, and then after a big loss, tell them, well, I actually think I'd like to be your mayor. So this isn't plan B for me. This is a high priority. And why it should matter to the voters is because I have a plan on how to improve our lives here in San Antonio. And I'm putting the energy and time and commitment that's needed into this campaign, and that's what they can expect from me as their mayor. Number two, I've always been a policy wonk, somebody who gets into the details, and in city government, that's exactly what public policy is about. It's very granular, very detailed oriented. And so if we're gonna really make a difference in some of our most stubborn challenges, we're gonna need a mayor who rolls up his sleeves and gets into the nitty gritty of public policy. I don't delegate out. I'm a hands-on type of person. And I think ultimately the voters are gonna have a choice. There's a clear distinction between Leticia and myself. And then the final one is that we need a mayor that unifies us, that brings us together. I'm not somebody who believes that the way to win political battles is to separate and divide.
You think she does?
If you look at respective histories in the legislature, you'll see that I've been effective by working with my Republican colleagues, by building coalitions. I have not been a strident voice in the legislature. I'm running against a number of opponents, and so I would say that the difference between Ivy and myself probably goes back to how we solve problems. My training is in economics and finance. Hers was in public planning. I worked as an investment banker for a decade. My clients were cities. She was a city employee. And so when it comes to solving problems, just take one example, allowing for rideshare to take place here. She took a very regulatory, heavy-handed approach, while I would have taken a more market-based approach, creating a framework where competition could exist.
Now that Julian Castro's gone, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen with SA 2020, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, SA 2020 is a brilliant idea, and they are implementing, the people who are behind that organization are implementing the idea well. The idea is, let's form a vision that's community-wide, let's define what the goals are, and let's try to measure those goals and hold ourselves accountable. I think that's a very good thing. That is how to move the needle on the things that matter to us, like making San